Pippa lives a measured life in a quiet suburb. She is the wife of much older husband Herb, a successful publisher, and mother of 2 grown children. Pippa seems to be the perfect wife, taking care of her elderly husband, setting up their new home in a small retirement community. However, there are complex feelings and experiences lurking inside her. The movie begins to reveal that Pippa was not always the calm woman that those around her see now. The movie presents 2 time periods: the present when Pippa is married to Herb and leads a domestic life, and the past when Pippa was a young woman, full of turbulent events and a complicated relationship with her mother. It is gradually revealed that Pippa's mother, Suki, suffered from addiction and mental health problems. She was obsessed with her appearance and constantly took medication to control her emotions, which affected her relationship with her daughter. As a teenager, Pippa tried to please her mother, but soon realized she couldn't stand the atmosphere. One day, after a particularly intense conflict with her mother, Pippa runs away from home in search of freedom and a new life. Pippa leaves home and enters the world of Bohemia. During this period, she encounters experiences that are new to her as she begins her life in creative circles. She meets all sorts of people, including an artist named Chris, who falls in love with her and opens the door to her life. The time spent with him is filled with passion and inner contradictions that awaken in Pippa a new understanding of herself and the world around her. But her relationship with Chris soon becomes complicated as his emotional instability and his need for recognition begin to overwhelm Pippa. When she meets Herb, he becomes her salvation, a man who is able to give her stability and confidence in the future. At that time, Herb was already a well-known and successful publisher who attracted Pippa with his confidence and wisdom. She agrees to marry him despite the significant age difference. For Pippa, it seems like the right choice. She moves away from her chaotic life and seeks stability in her relationship with Herb. They begin a life together, raise their children, and Pippa becomes the woman everyone around her knows as the perfect wife and mother. But gradually, as Herb ages and his health deteriorates, Pippa begins to feel that her own life seems to be frozen in place. She feels an inner emptiness and doesn't realize who she really is beyond the roles of wife and mother. She notices that her life revolves solely around the needs of others, and her own desires and dreams have long been forgotten. This leads Pippa to reflect deeply on the past and to try to understand how she ended up at this point in her life. Events develop further when Herb suffers a stroke and his condition worsens. This causes Pippa to further question what she is doing with her life. She begins to see signs in her marriage that her relationship with Herb has become more of a duty than love. This feeling is intensified when she learns that Herb is having an affair with a younger woman, which leaves Pippa confused. She feels betrayed, though at the same time she realizes that their relationship has not been real for a long time. Alongside this, Pippa meets Chris, a neighbor of the house she and Herb now live in. Chris is a man in his early 40s. He has recently moved back in with his mother after a divorce and is going through a difficult time in his life. Pippa begins to spend more time with him and a warm relationship gradually develops between them. Although at first they just talk and share their experiences, soon their communication grows into something more. Chris becomes for Pippa the person with whom she can be herself, talk about her inner fears and desires. He becomes a kind of salvation for her, an opportunity to escape from a life that no longer suits her. An important turning point is the scene when Pippa decides to meet her former friends and go back in time to reflect on her past mistakes and realize what she can do to move on. She goes to a party where she meets people she socialized with when she was younger. These meetings cause mixed feelings in her. On the one hand, she remembers how turbulent and emotional her life was then. On the other hand, she realizes that she no longer wants to return to that chaotic life, in which there was no stability and inner peace. At the same time, Chris begins to play an increasingly important role in Pippa's life. They become closer, their relationship becomes more intimate, and Pippa feels finally free from her previous obligations and roles. She realizes that she can be different with Chris, that her life doesn't have to be built around someone else. This sense of liberation helps her make an important decision about her future life. One of the key scenes in the movie is when Pippa learns that Herb makes the decision to take his own life as he no longer wants to live like this. This shocks Pippa, but at the same time she realizes that this move by Herb is his way of controlling his life until the very end. Despite all the pain she feels, Pippa realizes that she cannot stop him and that his choice must be accepted. This scene becomes the culmination of Pippa's inner turmoil as she realizes that her life no longer has to revolve around someone else's needs. The movie ends with Pippa deciding to leave her old life behind. She leaves town, leaving her home and her former role behind her. She says goodbye to the house she and Herb lived in for the last time and sets out to meet Chris. This move symbolizes her final release from the past, from the roles and commitments she has played for so long. Pippa is now free to choose how to live her life, and most importantly, she finally feels that it will be her own choice. Pippa's experiences in the movie are deeply connected to finding herself amongst the many roles and responsibilities she has fulfilled throughout her life. Her journey is the story of a woman who lived for others for a long time, forgetting her own wants and needs, but eventually found the strength to free herself and start living for herself.